So welcome everyone. We'll be talking about crowdfunding today. So crowdfunding is crowdfunding is the collective efforts of individuals supporting a project, and there are different types of crowdfunding. The reward-based one, which is the one I'll be talking today, where there is a donation and I'll get a reward in exchange of this donation. There is just the donation itself where I don't expect anything back. It's just I give money to support a project. And then the equity crowdfunding one, where I'll give a piece of my company in exchange of money. The fourth one is debt crowdfunding, also known as lending crowdfunding, where it's similar to going to a bank and asking for a loan, except that this time it's not going to be the bank, it's going to be people giving you money in exchange of a percentage of interest. And last one, initial coin offering, ICO, where the vehicle is going to be a token, and it's based on cryptocurrency. So let's jump into the subject and about Indiegogo. So Indiegogo was created 10 years ago. We are celebrating our 10 years anniversary. It's headquartered in San Francisco. We also have an office in New York, in Europe, and in Shenzhen, China. And we fund all type of projects, even if lately, if we look at Indiegogo and projects that are being funded on the platform, are very hardware and product oriented. So Indiegogo, we have the full spectrum of sales from the pre-launch page before you are ready to run your crowdfunding campaign, where you can collect emails, and then the crowdfunding part where you are going to finance your project, up to the marketplace now launched a few months ago, where once you have the product in stock, it's like any marketplace, you can continue and sell your product. It's more than 1 billion raised on the platform over the 10 past years, and probably now closer to the 10 million, and the number of the largest campaign has been passed the last week or 2 weeks ago by Mate, the e-bike. This one was for FlowHive, Connected Beehive. So very often people are like, you've been working at Indiegogo for a while on crowdfunding, and you've probably seen the market evolved. And I would say it's true, mostly over, I would say, the past 5 years, where crowdfunding was very trendy 5 years ago in terms of like getting a lot of coverage just because people were launching a crowdfunding campaign. As now it really became part of the go-to-market strategy, and it's a lot harder now just to get press coverage just for the campaign itself. But it's going to be really about what's the product and how to get it to market. And here are some of the reasons why to run a crowdfunding campaign nowadays. For me, the most important one will be actually test market, validate the market. Is my product interesting? And what's the target for the product, but also it gives you a place where you can showcase your product, find potential distributors or partners, because a lot of investors, distributors are looking on what's happening on the platform and what are the products that work well, and that's a really great way to feature your product. As well, I would say also to get feedback from the community. It's very interesting to get your backers giving you feedback on what do they expect about the product, the features of the product, and how to use it. And of course, money. That is always very interesting. Here are some examples of campaigns that work pretty well on the platform. When you look at accent wear, which are headphones, and you look at the product where it's regular headphones, but the cat ears are actually speakers where allowing you to share the music that you are listening. And you look at that and you're like, really? Are people going to buy it? And finally, it was like a really big success, and mostly I think in Japan, where people really liked the product, and they raised 3.4 million on the platform. So pilot, which is kind of similar, even if it makes sense, people would be interested, but it was really like, are people going to be willing to spend the money and buy the product and have enough trust in it? And they raised 4.4 million also on the platform. So now it's a new example of how the platform can be very useful in terms of market validation and as also a marketing tool. Here is a product that was, the campaign was run by General Electric, which was our first corporate running a campaign on the platform for the ice maker. And they had the product in their innovation lab and weren't sure if the product would find its market, and obviously it did, because they raised 2.6 million. It was, I think, about 3 years ago. Right now we have 2 campaigns, this one and the next one, running on the platform, again by big brand Gillette for heated razor. And it was the same for them. It's a new way to market and use the crowdfunding as a marketing tool to get visibility, because they get a lot of press coverage for the product. And in their case, like the following one, which is for Lego, Lego Forma, which is Lego for adults, and it was also having feedback from the community regarding the product. What are people expecting to get and want to get in the future also for the next iteration of the product. Here is a perfect example of how powerful can be to have a big community of influencers at the launch. And if we take Flowhive, which was, I think, about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit before that even. But if I'm not mistaken, before they took a year to prepare the campaign and build the community before the launch. And if I'm not mistaken, they had about 70,000 email addresses of people really like interested in the product, not just like harvesting emails and doing that. They were really engaged. That's why they got so much money, 12.5 million for a connected beehive. And they are based in Australia. And here is a challenger who just raised 2.8 million. I think the campaign is not over yet for a folding e-bike. They are based out of Sweden or Norway. And it's the same for them. They ran a first campaign on the platform, which already did very well. And since people got their product and were very happy with it, when they ran their second campaign, they had an ever more engaged community, which really helped having a strong launch, but keeping the momentum. Running a campaign can also be like proof of market. And when we look at Canary, which is a home security device, they raised 1.9 million on the platform, but more importantly, it really helped them going to VC afterwards, showing their traction for the product, and they raised another 40 million from VC. So now let's jump into the third subject on, here are all great projects, but how do we make a successful campaign? And like I said earlier, I think running a campaign is even more challenging right now because it's harder to get coverage for it. So crowdfunding it's not magic, when it's all about marketing. And I really like to repeat this sentence, because at the end it doesn't matter the product. You can have the best product in the world. If you're not able to sell it, there's no point. No, people won't know about it, and it won't work. So it's really having a strong marketing strategy if you want to run a campaign. But I would say it applies for almost everything. So here are the three key factors of a successful crowdfunding campaign. First, having a big audience in order to have a strong launch. And this audience needs to be engaged and dynamic, and if you want to keep the momentum during the campaign, and that they'll promote your product to their own community. And most importantly, I would say it's all about execution. Like running a startup, everybody will tell you it's all about execution, and it's the case. You need to have a strong marketing strategy. What I mean by that is having like a clear roadmap of all the different actions you need to do during the campaign or even before, but as well as doing a lot of A/B testing on your content, which is going to be text, but also images and videos. Test it and see which one performs best to the community and your target. So where do I start? First things first, audience. Like I said, it's going to be the factor that determines the success of your campaign. The bigger, the better. And to give you some few numbers, two actually. So 5% on targeted email list of people who knows about your product. They gave you their email address to know more about it. 5% is the conversion rate when at the beginning of the campaign you are going to say, hey guys, we are live, come get your early bird perk reward, and that's the conversion rate you are going to have. So to put it in numbers, let's say you manage to have 2,000 email addresses, so you can expect around 100 backers at the launch of the campaign. And with this 5% of your community at the launch, you need to reach 30% of your goal if you want to have a chance to have your campaign successful by the end of the campaign. I would say to go even further, 30%, that's the minimum. And sometimes also you'll see project that shows a low goal, but internally they would expect like twice that, let's say, mostly in hardware, because production is expensive and tooling and things like that requires a lot of money. So you need minimum 100K in order to go into production. But on the page of the campaign, since you want to reach your goal as fast as possible, you're going to only display 50K. So for me, the 30% applies for your internal goal, not the displayed one, if it makes sense. Building a community takes now. Very often I have a question of when should I start? If you are asking the question, the answer is now. For several reasons also, because it takes time, but also building a community, it's not only useful for a crowdfunding campaign. Even if you decide we don't want to do it, you will have this community, and you can use this community for all the life of your company. It's going to be for this product, but the next one, and etc. So let's jump into the subject for how do I build my email list and community. And first things first, build a landing page. Like I said, it gives you a central place where you can collect email address, and also it's going to be a place where you can talk about your product and explain what it's going to do, as well as being a central place also for media where you can try traffic to. And here are some examples of landing page. If we take Looney, for example, Looney, my fabulous storyteller, it's going to be the title. explaining in 2 words what the product is about. And then you have the tagline right below explaining more in details on what the product does, but as well also as who's the target. And for here it's kids and family. Then a video, which is a teaser video about the product. It's not going to be the video of the campaign. And then below you have the incentive, you know, like it's like the carrot, and to push people, to give the people a reason to leave their email address, and then the field in order to collect emails. You can have that on our platform on Indiegogo, but you can also do it on your website. It doesn't matter where you do it. You need to have it as soon as possible. Here is another example where on Indiegogo now you can have one perk, one reward available on the page, on the pre-launch page of the campaign, allowing you to already get momentum before you launch officially. Like that, the day of the launch, you don't start from zero, but you already have a little bit of momentum on it. In order to build your community, you need to start somewhere. And you have in your network already the basis of building this community. You have your family, you have your friends, you have your coworkers, you have the network of your coworkers, you have your acquaintances. So when people are like, but where should I start? You already have a network, so start from there and then grow this network. And to grow this network, you have several ways. First, for me, I find it very interesting to use offline events like today, for example, where if you have a booth, collect all, if it's on a B2B event, collect the business cards of people. If you are going to be at a fair, which is going to be more like individuals and wider audience, take an iPad, a tablet where people have a simple form, or just at least a piece of paper and a pen, and write down all the emails of the people stopping at your booth. The reason is, for me, I like that because it allows you to meet the people, they meet you, like, so there is a direct connection, but they can usually also test and try, test the product and see how it works. So you'll have a very engaged community coming from there. The other important one, and I think that's, we see it in the very successful campaign, is content creation, allowing them to interact with the community. And it's really about sharing the expertise, but also providing useful information to your future backers. If we take an example for this one, it's a portable pizza oven. And they had a very smart and cool content strategy by providing recipes of pizza. Who haven't seen on Facebook videos of cooking and how people like to share this kind of stuff? That's the perfect example of content created related to the product. It's not all about the product, but it's going to get people to share and really promote your brand. And it's also not only about the product or content related to it, but also about the life of your company, and having interviews of your co-workers or people in the subject, or even just funny pictures of going on break for Easter. Social media. Social media is also a very big one because you might have people following you on social media, but you don't have their email address. And what we've seen is at the launch of the campaign, usually emails perform best at the launch of the campaign. That's why it's important to have a strategy that is going to be based on, at the beginning, on emailing and then social media afterwards. But Social media is the second most effective way to drive traffic to the page of the campaign once launched. So do not underestimate that part of the community. And more than 20% of the funds are raised through social media. You have subscribers and they have their own community. Just use it. It's really simple and it sounds obvious, but when you are running your campaign, or even before, you don't automatically think about doing it, and it's just a very simple thing to do. Host an event. Like I said, it goes in the same idea of offline event where you're going to meet people. Hosting an event where you're going to demo your product and interact with people, that's a very powerful way to have a very engaged community and potentially even find ambassadors regarding your project / product. Press. Press is obviously a very strong factor to get into it. Some advice: create a media kit, either on your website before the launch of the campaign to have at least content for the journalist, but I would even also put it while running the campaign in the story of the campaign to have a section dedicated also to that, to have a media kit available with a link for journalists. And the great thing about it is having to pitch journalists your project also really trains you in how you should pitch it and get it in a simple words for people to really understand it. And start small. First start in your local press, and then grow once you improve your pitch, and don't forget to do the also follow-up by sending something sending information to your journalist, but also do the follow-up. And PR is, like it says, it's press relation. It's not, you don't contact journalists only when you need them, but it needs to be a relation, and do it on the long term. Contact them way before you are going to be ready to launch, to start the relation. And do not do a blast to all the journalists. Really target the ones that are going to be interested in your subject, that have already covered similar product or subject in the field. Ads. Ads is probably also, I would say, you have emailing, you have social media, and ads comes right after, with driving traffic to the page of the campaign. I would say the most effective social media being Facebook and Instagram in terms of engagement. Thinking if I should say it, but yeah, in terms of budget, it's very often a question that I get on how much money should I put for the campaign, should I save and use, and I would say it will depend from one campaign to another, but it's usually about 10%, I would say, if I look on average, compared to the amount of money you expect to raise. So if you expect to raise 100K, your marketing budget is going to be usually around 10K. And so you've built your community, it's very dynamic, and you have a very strong launch. So now, how do I get it moving? How do I get the momentum during the campaign? And here are some list of things that you should do. First, continue to run ads. And I didn't mention it, but ads, it takes time to set up and find the right message. So that's why you also, when you run ads, I think it's where it's extremely important to do a lot of A/B testing with trying different messages, don't forget that it needs to be a call to action if you want to get people being engaged, as well as the visual content, try different photo, try different videos. What we've seen, for example, is video usually gets higher engagement than photo. One cool thing to do while running the campaign is engage with your community. So do a live event on the social media of your choice, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, doesn't matter where. And maybe you can do several on different platforms because you are not going to have automatically the same community on all the different platforms. But that's a great way to interact with the community, get feedback, have questions. That's really great thing to do. Send updates during the campaign on, hey guys, we just passed our 30% threshold and we are very happy. Please continue to share the campaign to your community. And then once you reach 100% of the goal, or if you are releasing new perks on the page of the campaign. So it's very important to continue to engage with the community if you want them to talk about your campaign and get them excited. Media, obviously, with, I will say that just general press, from my experience, doesn't automatically convert in backers. That means that it's not because you are going to have an article talking about your product in your campaign in media that it's going to automatically bring you new backers. But it really helps with the trust brought to the project, because on the page of the campaign, you are going to have a section dedicated to the press where they talk about us. So having the logo of the different media is always nice and bring trust to the page of the campaign. However, influencers and bloggers who usually have more of a targeted audience and potentially more engaged are going to be the one extremely interesting to have and leverage. Like I said earlier, host an event while running the campaign. Do at the launch a launch party. It's really fun. You gather all the community. It's like a pleasant moment. Everybody is happy, and that's a great way also to have people support the project just right at the start. And having also demo event are really cool. And cross promotion is the idea of, for example, I run a campaign around an e-bike, so my customers are going to be people interested in e-bikes. But I see another campaign where they are running, I see another campaign that is run for helmet, for example. So we are on the same market, we have the same target, but we are not competitors. And I can talk about their product and they can talk about my product to their community. So that's another way to engage with a community that is not yours, but can be very interested in your product. Here are some really interesting resources on how to build an email list. So you have the title and where is the source, so like that it's going to be easy to find them in Google. Good. And like I said, one more for the road is always do A/B testing because it's all about marketing. And in order to have the best marketing message to your audience, you need to do a lot of testing to find the right one. And here you go. Thank you. Do we have a question? Hold on.
What is the main difference of Indiegogo from Kickstarter? What platform should I use for example, for hardware startup?
I was wondering when this question will come up. But I would say there are several big differences. First one would say we are a global platform. You can run your campaign from anywhere in the world. You don't need to create a company in the US or somewhere else. You can, like, directly from Kazakhstan, you can run your campaign without any issues. Secondly, I would think that nowadays we are very tech-oriented, as Kickstarter is more general. They still have non-profit, they have a lot of cultural projects, as we are really product-oriented. And one of probably the most important one, I would say, is support. When you run a campaign on Indiegogo and you contact the team, you always have a campaign manager that is going to follow your campaign and help you with the preparation. Not that I know of. Usually I don't think Kickstarter are global. They are open in 28 countries, I think.
So there is a restriction in Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hi. I have like 2 questions, pretty much. So I want to know what is the percentage of the campaigns that deliver on time, as they promised at the beginning. And the second question will follow up from that is, what is the okay or average delay time, let's say in a month?
Yeah. So to answer your first question, I don't have the percentage of how many campaigns deliver and deliver on time, which are 2 different questions. I don't have the data for that. However, for your second question, I would say to my campaigners, I recommend to do not run your campaign before you are able to stay in a frame window of 3 to 6 months delivery time after the end of the campaign, if it makes sense. Don't run it too early, your campaign, because it's going to be harder to engage with the community if the delivery time is too far. And also, it's going to be what we've seen, like with campaign failing, not being able to deliver, is because mostly, not lately, or it was all campaigns, but what in the past, what we've seen is it's campaigns who ran the campaigns too early, and the money they used it for R&D where it should have been used for production. So they get the money, they are not still far from being ready, and the money they use it to do their research and development. And when comes time to do production, they've used all the money. So that's why usually to my campaigner I say, wait till you're at least at the final stage of the prototype, and even better if you can be at the industrial prototype. Like that you are on a very short time period after the end of the campaign, which is a lot easier to get people engaged, because when you see I'll get my product in 3 months or even 2 months end of campaign, or 6 to 9 months, that's not really the same feeling.
Hi. Since we are mostly the startup companies here, and we have some lack of resources, with the people, and to create such kind of content which you named today, to have an interaction with your public, yes, with your audience, I think it is a job not for only one person. Am I right? Could you please give me some practical tips? Because now I have this scope, and I'm just guessing who can help me in my company. There are a lot of tech guys and sales team, and nobody is going to help me to create such kind of huge content.
That's difficult on small teams for several reasons. First one being not having the competencies internally. I would say you need to have someone in charge of communication anyway in the company. So after it's hard to create content because it takes time, and also I would say it takes expertise in how are you going to communicate and address your community. So you can either use like outsourcing for that, or do it internally, but just, if you're going to do it internally, have like planning, you know, like this week we'll do maybe just a small video, and it doesn't need to be something extremely complex. You can just do a live chat with your iPhone, you know, like, it doesn't need to be something very complex, but it needs to be something that is consistent, you know, like you do it all the time and not just time to time. If you are going to do, for example, a newsletter, which is not very complicated to do, just set up one per month or every 2 months. But don't do just one, and for 6 months there is nothing, and suddenly there is one. You know, like, try to keep it regular, if it makes sense. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Pascal.
My pleasure.